Disclaimer. This podcast features a conversation between two individuals regarding assistive technology. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed during this episode belong solely to the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of their respective employers. Furthermore, this discussion is for informational purposes only.
Hi, welcome to Assistive Tech Today podcast. I'm your host, Vinny Lavodi. I am an assistive technology specialist and AT tech support for a company called Enabling Devices that makes adaptive products and adaptive toys for adults and children with special needs. I have been so for the last 24 years. And today I have a special guest for you, Julius Hoffmann, who is a co-founder of a very interesting piece of software that I think SLPs will find very interesting. And as we always say on Assistive Tech Today, we want to bring you the latest and greatest in technology that can help you support your patients and students better. So without further ado, Mr. Julius Hoffmann, welcome to Assistive Tech Today podcast and the co-founder of SLPractice. Welcome to the podcast.
Great to be here. Thank you so much for the invite.
I was very excited to speak to you, Julius. We had spoken a while back about the product and what it does. I know that you're an AI specialist or AI tech, but your mom is an SLP, so she's actually been a very supportive figure in helping to develop this software to make it functional for SLPs. So I'm going to stop talking and let you tell us a little bit about the software and maybe show us some examples of, what it does and how it works.
Yeah, fantastic. So first of all, thanks a lot for the invite. I'm very, very happy to be here. So my mom is an SLP, so I kind of grew up around, helping her prepare sessions the next day that she would have. And there were hours and hours that went into that. I really remember vividly helping her printing things, cutting things out of paper, laminating them, helping her find certain words she could use in her therapy sessions. And so it was a topic that was always very dear to my heart. I've kind of worked in tech for the last 10 years and worked on different topics. And when AI came around, it was really kind of the aha moment that I realized, wow, there's such an incredible potential to use this technology in a purposeful and good way, especially in the context of child education. Because what fundamentally AI allows us is to take any piece of content and we can personalize it to the child's interests. And especially when you then talk to SLPs, and especially when we're talking about neurodiverse population, autistic children, that's really where a lot of magic of kind of unlocking language, eliciting language, and just getting really engaged children comes from. And so as we kind of enrolled and went on this journey, me and my co-founder Will, we started speaking to hundreds of speech and language therapists and pathologists, and we wanted to understand what are like the common themes, what are the things that are costing them most time. Because if there's one thing that SLPs don't have, it's time. And that's true in Germany, where I'm from, just as much as it is in the US or the UK or other places in the world. We have a severe shortage of SLPs. The caseloads are growing and the cases are getting more severe. And so I think what we are asking ourselves every single day is, what can we do and how can we apply our skill sets in the context of AI to help SLPs provide even better care and alleviate some of the pain and some of the kind of administrative that they have in a task they have in their day-to-day in order to deliver more personalized and more engaging therapy. And that's kind of how SLPractice was born fundamentally. We believe that AI can give SLPs superpowers of creating more resources that are more personalized and more tailored to the child that sits in front of them, and doing it in a way where they don't have to spend their hours laminating, cutting, just like I did with my mom, but really ideally spending that time with the client, with the child, and in communication with the families and the schools that they work with.
Yes, I mean, that's, this is a really, really amazing stuff that you guys are coming out with. And I've talked to, doing this for 24 years, I've talked to so many therapists, and that's one of the things that is always tough, with time management. Like you said, the caseloads are growing. Sometimes the kids, they're more complex. And the mundane stuff that has to be done with AI, so like I've talked to a few AI experts, and some people either love or hate AI, but for repetitive tasks, some mundane things, it's very good. It makes things, like the old saying, work smarter, not harder. It makes you more efficient. And like you said, the old school way, cutting out pictures and things. I mean, you only have so much time in a day, and you only have so much time to spend with each patient. So you want to maximize that for them and give them the best session to give them better quality of life. So
Exactly. And I think on top of, giving them back time that they currently just frankly don't have, I think it's really just elevating their therapy sessions to a level that wasn't there before. Because not only are they saving the time on the things they could have done before, but as a result of the resources that they can create with our platform, they actually have even more engaged children because they can create content that is kind of around the interest in the world of the child
right,
that they work with, right? So if a child really loves superheroes, or if they love specific animals, or especially neurodiverse kids, we get a lot of feedback from our users that they sometimes have these really niche interests. So if the content is not exactly about that topic, they just don't
right,
want to listen to it. And
right,
so this is really unlocking that level of care.
right. We were talking before we were on camera. We were saying that one of the great things with the software is that you can do this stuff on the fly because it takes
Hmm.
a lot of the workload off of you. If you have a kid, maybe he's not or she is not engaging today on particular topic, but you maybe shift to something like you said, superheroes, and like that content doesn't exist.
Hmm.
With a few keystrokes, you could have something that's going to engage them and then get them back on track to the session.
Exactly. And I think, when I'm talking to SLPs and the hundreds of SLPs that are using our platform every day, what I kind of realize is that, they have kind of been deprived of really, really cool tech. And this kind of field has just not really been elevated. I think there's been a lot that has been going on, especially on the AAC side. But when it comes to kind of resource creation and making that more engaging and fun, there's a lot of different platforms that offer this. And there's also great platforms out there. But what we really hope to kind of create is one place and a one-stop shop where they can go to have kind of all of their needs fulfilled, no matter if it's making a board for the next kind of therapy session that they can also give to the parents, or if it's creating this very engaging and fun game. The goal is for us to find ideally a lot of evidence-based frameworks that they already use today, and they can cover their entire caseload with it, right? So we see therapists use it for kind of articulation practice and speech sounds. We have lots of different games for kind of language, be it receptive or kind of producing language and understanding narrative concepts. And I think that's a very big one. We want to make sure that we build content for, let's say, maybe the areas of speech and language pathology that have not really been touched by this type of content. So specifically social skills and pragmatics, as well as bilingual content, because there's a lot of platforms and resources out there that are in English, but like in
Right.
US English. But ideally, we can bridge that and allow that with AI to just simply translate that into Spanish, let's say, and then suddenly within a couple of seconds, the resource that you created last week for that one child that is English speaking, you can now play with another one in Spanish. And so that's really the potential that AI brings to the table,
Right.
we think.
That's amazing. I was always been a consumer tech junkie. I always dabbled in consumer tech, and one of the skill sets that I brought when I came to enabling devices, I was in manufacturing. I worked in consumer a little bit with consumer electronics and beta testing, working for different companies. And I always was, can I meld some of the tech that's out there now with assistive tech to help the population we're serving? And the one thing, excuse me, the one thing that was always lagging is the consumer end side of it was always, going up and pretty fast paced. I always felt that assistive technology was like 3 or 4 steps behind.
Yeah.
And now with the birth of AI and some of the other amazing stuff that's been coming down the last couple of years, I've noticed that gap is narrowing.
Hmm.
That, you know, AI is out. A lot of people use AI today just in regular business and just in personal life. Now, like you said, with some of the great stuff that you guys have developed, it's becoming more commonplace in assistive tech. And again, the gap has now narrowed. And that's a major game changer in my opinion. Like I said, doing this for 24 years, it was it was always a few steps behind. And that, that's a hindrance because if the technology is available, why don't we have access to it? But again, you guys are making that happen. You guys are changing the game.
Hopefully, yeah. And I think really in a couple of years from today, no therapist will be still creating resources manually. Some of them have maybe say, the nostalgic feeling of doing that and spending my evenings doing so. But as you mentioned before, these repetitive administrative tasks that just steal your time, that shouldn't be the case. We want to have a tool that really allows them to let their creativity speak and be spending that time with the clients they have. And
Right.
so yeah, I'm really excited for building for the future of SLP, and we really think that there's so much to build and so many therapists to support.
The other area which we didn't touch on, but I was just speaking with another a medical SLP, and they're working with a different type of software, but she deals on the medical side more, and a lot of the doctors and therapists get burnout because they're so overwhelmed. So software like this can kind of take some of the burden, off the therapist that, like you said, all the repetitive things that sitting home at night, cutting out pieces, pictures or whatnot. You can give them a little breather room so that, if they do have a big caseload, they're not overwhelmed. So, these
Mhm.
tools are amazing. And like I said, the whole premise of this podcast is to expose this to all the therapists out there and caregivers and family members to let them know that this stuff exists.
Yeah. And it's also, I think that's a very, very key thing. And that's very important you bring that up because what every SLP will agree to is that the real progress happens not necessarily in the therapy session, because that's just like, well, let's say 1/2 hour, 45 session a week at max,
Hmm.
but it actually happens in between, right? And so the key thing that we put a lot of emphasis on is making it as easy as possible to share any resource that an SLP creates on the platform and making that content shareable with just one click. The person who kind of is the content is shared with does not have to log in. They can just kind of click that link and play that resource in the game with the child. And so that's how we really want to make that carryover happen. That makes sure that children do the practice, because this is really what kind of makes the progress. Like the practice makes perfect, and that's
Right.
that's what any SLP will agree to. And that's also what the evidence base clearly says. The more repetitions, for example, in articulation practice you do, and the more correct production samples that a child does, the faster the progress will be that they make.
So let's shift a little bit into the tech part of the software. So is this cloud-based software? Is this web-based? Is it, what platforms is this cross-platform compatible?
Yeah. So currently it's a browser web-based platform.
Hmm.
We are also building or working on kind of an app that can be downloaded on any mobile device. But for the time being, our therapists love the fact that they can actually connect it directly in the internet. They can create a resource with the child next to them on the fly. One of the hits that we have, like that SLPs really love, and not only SLPs but also kind of psychologists working in schools have, is social stories where, for example, a child could be in the school and having like a difficult situation where maybe they are unregulated or dysregulated, and they need to blow off steam, and maybe they, I don't know, have some troubles with another child on the playground.
Hmm.
And what the social stories allows them that the school psychologist or kind of assistant can take the child in a separate room once they're regulated, and then they can kind of create a social story together that kind of explains in a neuroaffirming way to the child, what the child experienced and how that might have made the other child feel. And, that's a lot of potential that we see in actually having a web-based platform that is responsive, being able to create that content on the fly with the child next to you.
Right. So being it's web-based, obviously you need an internet connection to use the software.
Correct. Currently, yes. However, as I said, we're going to be building an iOS and Android app that is coming out soon, and it's possible to print any resource. So if you've created, or once you've created a resource on the platform, the printout that you can take into an offline session or a group session, let's
Oh.
say, is just one click away.
Is this also, I know we didn't touch on this when we spoke earlier, but with the platform, I know obviously it's emerging as you're developing this. Is this also, is there any community base where like therapists can share some of their work? Because like you said, somebody might create something, but maybe another therapist could use that. Is that a possibility, or is that something that's in the works?
Absolutely. I think there's two elements to it. One is the community. So we actually have, a huge and growing community of SLPs that are creating content on the platform. And when the SLP allows it, we basically make a resource available to all of the other SLPs. So if you are kind of a user of the platform, you also kind of actively participate in the growth of the content. And we're making it possible for anyone to then find resources that others have created and take that into the next therapy session, either just taking the existing resource because they think it's great, or they can save it into their own library and then kind of enter the AI chat that I'm going to show in a second and tweak it to the interest of the child or to the name of the child. And yeah, so that's kind of how we're doing that.
So they can build on it on their own. They can, like you said, tweak it, customize it for their individual needs. Like have a basis if they say, "Oh, I like the way they did this, but I need to tweak it for this." But all the groundwork's done.
That's exactly. So that's kind of the overall community, and there's also like a whole tab kind of in our product that I'm going to show you where therapists can browse and find relevant resource created by others. The other kind of element I wanted to mention is SLPractice also puts a lot of emphasis on teams working with the platform, and so teams can also sign up, and when teams sign up, we can essentially have a shared library of resources that they can share with each other, create for certain profiles of kids that multiple SLPs on the team or maybe the assistants in the schools can then access, because we believe that resources are a collaborative effort. Right. In order to make sure that the child can make the progress they should be making, we need to kind of bring multiple of the stakeholders on the platform, and that includes the SLP as well as the teaching staff and the family. Which is why this sharing aspect is fundamental to us.
Right. That's great. I mean, this is just like a corporate type program where they would have like multiple people. They may not be in the same location. They share everything so they can collaborate. I mean, you're basically using the same premise with your software. So I want to give you time to, show us what the program and how it works. So if you want to share your screen, then this way you can walk us through and just give us an overview.
Sure. Can you see my screen fine?
Yep, I can.
Fantastic. So yeah, as I mentioned, the platform is called SLPractice. So you see it on the top left. Website is called slpractice.com. I think it's important to mention that there's a free tier on the platform. So any SLP that joins the platform will get new credits every single month that allows them to create new resources. And we put a lot of emphasis on that because we want to make sure that any SLP, no matter how small or large the caseload, can get value from SLPractice, and frankly can just kind of experience the magic that lies in creating resources with AI. And when you enter SLPractice after signing up, this is what you see, which essentially is kind of your library of resources. On the left-hand side, you kind of see the resources that you have. I can click into the profiles, which are all of the clients or kid profiles that I'm working with that I have set up, and I also have the community page that I was just mentioning, where we have a growing collection of hundreds of resources that can be browsed through by SLPs, and they can kind of pick whatever resource they like and directly easily add it to their own resource library. And that's kind of what we want to make sure of, is allowing therapists to make use of this growing kind of resource library that we have. So when you go on the resources tab, you'll notice that we have loads of resources that I've created here on my account. Obviously, I've been creating many. And so when you get started though, how to get started is by clicking on the create resource button here. And this allows you or lets you into, let's say the collection of therapy templates that we have created. What's very key for us is that SLPractice is based on evidence-based frameworks. So we are building different therapy templates together with SLPs, and these are growing every week. So there's lots of new ones. Just yesterday, we actually launched what you see here in the middle on the left, called sequencing. Mm-hmm. And so the idea is that across speech, sounds, articulation games, language development, as well as kind of social skills, we have different therapy templates that therapists can then use. And I can give you one example, for example, here of the magic quiz. So the magic quiz allows you to create a quiz, either multiple choice quiz or an open-ended quiz on really any topic of choice. It could be a speech sound, articulation focused. It could be a language concept in grammar, or let's say inferencing or conjunctions, or it could be a social skills topic. And so when I click into a given resource template, we always greet the users by sort of this open text input that you see here now, where I can now define a couple of things. I could say for the quiz specifically, what type of quiz I want, right? Do I want just open-ended discussion questions, or do I maybe want to have also multiple choice image and text options? For now, I'll just keep all of these. And you can define sort of like the difficulty, how many, do we want to have an easy one, maybe for younger children, or do you want to have a bit of a more difficult one?
Right.
And then the key part about it is that you can decide whatever you want the quiz topic to be about. And so, for example, I could say, let's say we create a quiz about emotional regulation on the playground. And I could say, make it dinosaur themed. So dinosaurs are regulating their emotions. And so when I now click on create, we're basically feeding you or giving you into an AI chat interface, so you can actually create and tailor this resource to your needs. And so what you're seeing now on the left-hand side, it's thinking about what to do based on kind of the prompt that I gave it. And then it's creating on the right-hand side the therapy resource that it thinks and it's kind of created based on the input prompt. And the idea is that now me as a therapist, or I as an SLP, can now keep writing with the left-hand side chat to kind of tweak the resource to what I want it to be like. And so if we now look at this example here, I can see the first question: what is the best first step when you feel angry on the playground? Stop and take slow breaths, shout to scare others, run away and hide. Second one is an open-ended one. What could this dinosaur say to join without grabbing the toy? And then the last one is an open-ended, multiple choice image-based one, which is which picture shows a dinosaur using calm body language? Mm-hmm. Image A, B, or C. And so, the idea here is really that I could be saying, oh, wow, I love question 2. Give me 2 more of those, right? And so if I send this message now, our AI is looking at the content that has been on the right-hand side. And now I as an SLP can basically iteratively work towards the goal and final resource. And so I see now here, the question has been added. I scroll down, and then it'll take a second for it to add kind of the remaining ones. I could also say that I want you to make the kids in question 2 dinosaurs as well. So really, whatever is on the right-hand side, I as a therapist can kind of take a look at it. I change it. And what's really key to us is that rather than requiring therapists and SLPs to create the perfect prompts, because I think a lot of SLPs feel like, I'm not a prompting expert, and we think they shouldn't have to be. We let our AI chat do the heavy lifting, and they can just use natural language to create the perfect resource that they want. And so, as you can see now, kind of the 2 human children here on the question 2
dinosaur kids
got replaced. I know dinosaur kids.
That's
exactly.
Crazy.
And similarly, on the right-hand side, you can see we now have 2 more questions. Which picture shows a dinosaur handling losing a game in a friendly way? And which picture shows a dinosaur taking space to calm down safely? And so you can really see that it took kind of what I mentioned, me liking in that question, and then adapting it to create more questions this way. And now, if I'm happy with the output of this resource, I can hit the publish button on the top right-hand corner. And this is now a game that I can go in and play.
Now, can you
What
edit
is the
that game?
best first step when you feel angry on the playground? Run away and hide. Shout to scare others. Stop and take slow breaths.
You were asking?
So I said, and can you modify these once you publish them?
Exactly. So let's say I kind of now played this game and I realized that it was not perfect. I can always kind of go back in and edit it, and I'll land back where I ended up before I published it. So allowing you to really kind of perfect that resource over time. Exactly. And so kind of, I just showed you how it would be playing it. What I mentioned before is it's also really easy to share. And so I can click on any resource on the share button. And when I now copy this link, I can take this link anywhere in iMessage, email. And, when I then share it and the other person clicks on it, they can access that resource without actually having to log in whatsoever.
That's great. The other question I did have, because this is AI generated, obviously using AI system, is there different tiers with this? I mean, because I know sometimes they have paywalls where you only could use so many tokens, and then they're going to tell you either you have to wait till the time elapses or you have to pay for a premium service.
Exactly. So the way that our pricing works, it's kind of visible on slpractice.com/pricing, is we have 3 tiers. And so this is now in pounds because I'm currently in the UK, but the idea is that we have a free tier. The free tier lets any SLP to create a couple of resources every single month. So you get new resource creation credits every month. Okay. And then as you kind of go into our paid plans, you get unlimited access to our resource library. And you can actually just have much more room to create really for your entire caseload. And this is where we then kind of have 2 different plans depending on the usage to allow SLPs, if they have maybe a smaller caseload of 10 to 20 kids, then the Essentials plan is perfect to start with. But maybe if you have a larger caseload and you want to really create bespoke resource for any child that you work with, you can then upgrade to the Pro plan. But that's also very flexible as you kind of grow and as you grow with the platform.
Right. No, that's really good. You guys have thought pretty much of everything.
Thank you. I do want to quickly, because I think first of all, I think any SLP is welcome to try it. It's as I said, completely free to give it a try. In the beginning, when you sign up for the first time, we actually give you a handful more resources, letting you to really discover all of the templates we have, rather than just a couple that you get later then. And some of the other examples that I think especially US SLPs have been waiting for a lot is, for example, sequencing. So sequencing, the idea is that you can kind of define, a sequence of, let's say, a daily routine, right? So you could say things that are happening every day before I go to school. And so I actually have a resource in the community that is about that, where it's getting ready for school. And so you can see here that, there's kind of a sequence about brushing your teeth, sequence about eating breakfast. And the idea is that kids understand, the sequential way of getting ready, for example, dressing in your school uniform. And as I mentioned before, you can, I now have this open here with the chat, and I can always go in and say, I maybe want to change the appearance of the child in the game so that it actually looks like the child that I'm working with, right? Or you can go in and adapt it to maybe having sequences that are more about the evening routine after they come back from school, right?
Right.
Another example, a resource that I have that I think loads of therapists are loving is social stories. So social stories, as I mentioned before, is the idea that as a child kind of experiences tricky situations in their real life, you can create a neuroaffirming story where you can, together with the child, create the characters that are appearing in the story. So this could be actually the child, him or herself, together with maybe the friend or the child that they experienced the troubling situation with, and maybe a teacher that was around. And then, we have kind of this story builder that lets you, as the SLP, together with the child, describe what actually happened in the story, and then create a story that, when you publish it afterwards, can be then watched at.
Sometimes 2 friends can have a misunderstanding at lunchtime. Alice sees Caroline and wants to sit and chat with her.
Right. So I don't have to go into too much detail here, but all of these are also in the resource library. And yeah, I think that's a couple of games without sharing too much. I think the real magic comes from, trying it yourself and playing around with it. As I mentioned, there's lots more to come in terms of additional resource templates that we plan on launching in the coming weeks. WH questions, different types of storytelling games that work on narrative concepts. And I think any therapist that joins us can also still shape the product and shape the product development, because we are not SLPs ourselves. So we are really kind of building this for and with SLPs every single week. And so we're really excited about anyone coming in and bringing in their creative energy and their idea for additional templates.
No, thank you, Julius, for going over that and showing it in depth. I think that really paints a really good picture of what what the software is capable of. And guys, we'll always put links to everything in the show notes so that you can check out the software and see all the great stuff that Julius and his co-founder have come up with, along with his mom. We got to give mom credit.
100%, 100%.
Always mom gets credit.
100%. Thank you so much.
So, Julius, we're going to probably, kind of wind it down and wrap it up. But is there anything else you wanted to share before we wrap up the podcast?
I think, first of all, again, thank you for letting me be here. I think we are still, pretty early in our journey. And I think, it's amazing to see these hundreds of signups and SLPs really loving the potential of the product. But as I mentioned, this is kind of a call to, any practitioner who believes in the power of AI, to come out and build the future of SLP and AI with us. And there's just such an incredible potential to allow SLPs worldwide to kind of elevate their practice to a more personalized therapy with more carryover actually happening into the home and into the school. And so, yeah, I think we are very excited about anyone joining us and building that future together with us.
I know it's available now, so obviously you can join up and use the program, but is there like an official launch date set yet, or are you still tweaking and doing things?
We've launched. So the product is live. It's hundreds of therapists are using it. I think it's still like we started half a year ago. So in that sense, it still feels early. And we now have 7 therapy templates. We plan to have over 50 in a couple of months. Given that we're really launching new ones every single week, and so that's why I think it's still early days. But the product is fully fleshed out, and therapists are loving it.
That's on my mistake there. I was thinking
no worries.
I know you were the last time we spoke a few months ago, we were talking about, you were getting a lot of input from different therapists to help build up the content which was going to be available to everyone.
Which will hopefully always be the case. So this is kind of like just a part of how we want to build the platform, because we only know so much, and we want to make sure that we build a platform and a product that is, actually useful and can be useful across the entire caseload every single day, which is why hopefully that element of collaboration and really hand in hand working with SLPs on building this out will never end.
It's great. It's always it's like that movie, The Never Ending Story. It continues to grow.
Hopefully, yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Which is good. So yeah, I think we're going to end this on that note. And again, Julius, I do appreciate you coming on as a guest and spending your time with us to show us this great product. I mean, my podcast wouldn't exist without great guests like yourself. So again, we appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate you as well. Thank you so much.
So guys, as I always say, my new slogan or saying is that here's another one in the books. And I've been your host, Vinny Lavodi, for Assistive Tech Today podcast. And again, our gracious guest, Julius Hoffmann, and SLPractice is his software. And again, we will put links in the show notes so you guys can all go and check it out and hopefully become part of the story and use the product for better good and to help these people that need it. Fantastic. All right, guys. We'll see you on the next podcast. Take care, everyone.